I'm Jacqueline Fay for Cynergy Hypnosis and Life Coaching. So today I'm going to go off topic a little bit, and I'm not going to talk to you about hypnosis or life coaching or NLP. I'm actually going to talk to you about a subject that I am personally very into right now, which is Kabbalistic Cycles. So how it works is every year we all go through a Kabbalistic cycle. And it starts on your birthday. So for example, if you were born on May 15th, like somebody else I know, then you start there, and then you're in your sun cycle for 52 days. Then for the next 52 days, you go into your moon cycle. And what's so amazing about it is for each cycle, there's certain things that are good to do and not good to do. So for instance, buying a house, starting a new business, and so on and so on. You can use those cycles to figure out when would be the best time to do certain things. Now, what I think is also very fascinating is the cycles are also through a lifetime. So from 0 to 7, you are in a sun cycle. And that's a time when things are just given to you. And if you think about it, when you're 0 to 7, that makes sense. You can't do that much, so people just give you things. Here's a drink, here's a bottle, et cetera, et cetera. So that's 0 through 7. Then from 7 to 14, you go into a moon cycle, which is very changeable. And that makes sense because your body's changing. You're going through puberty. Things are happening. You're thinking different. Then from 7 to 21, you move into a Mars cycle. And Mars is like the physical planet. And that's when your body's going through like a physical rebellion. And if you think about a lot of great athletes, that's when they become athletes, is during that time period when they're in high school, when they're in college. And then from 22 to 28, you go through a communication period, and that's Mercury, the planet of communication. And if you think about it, that's when a lot of people are starting their first real jobs. It's when a lot of people are going to grad school, and you're having to communicate with the world a lot. And so that makes a lot of sense. And then from 29 to 36, people go through a Jupiter cycle. And if you know anything about Jupiter, that is the planet of luck. So that would make perfect sense. A lot of people are starting businesses then. That's when a lot of people are becoming successful. They're making money. They're getting married. You're kind of starting your life. And then from 37 to 42, that is when you go into a Venus cycle. And for women, this is kind of like a very important time because we're ruled by Venus. So, a lot of women become very sexual during that time. That's kind of when like the cougar starts to kick in. And that makes perfect sense. And then also for men, a lot of men seem to go through like a midlife crisis kind of, and they might have an affair with somebody else. And that seems to happen during that time. Of course, that doesn't need to happen. I'm not saying it should, but it sometimes does. And then from 43 to 49, people go through a Saturn cycle. And in a Saturn cycle is kind of the physical body kind of degenerates a little bit. It gets a little weaker during this time, but it's not permanent. And there's a lot of reflecting, and it can be a little difficult for people. But the thing is, if you spend your time during that cycle really focusing on spirituality and giving back and karma and volunteering and doing things like that, you'll do really well, and you'll actually come closer to enlightenment during that time. So it can actually be a very enlightening time for a lot of people. And then from 50 to 57, the whole chart repeats itself, and you go back into a sun cycle, which is actually really cool. Because if you think about it, there's a lot of people that they're not really successful, and then all of a sudden they hit 50 and it's like, boom, their career explodes. And it's kind of like your second chance. So if you're in that cycle, I would say, just start asking for things. Because if you ask, they're going to come to you. It's that time. And then, after that, you move into back into a moon cycle, then back into a Mars cycle, and the chart just repeats itself over and over every 7 years. So I just found that fascinating, and so I decided to share it with you. And I think it's a really cool way to live your life. And if you want to know more about it, feel free to ask me any questions. I'm Jacqueline Fay with Cynergy Hypnosis and Life Coaching.